Here we're going to tie a red quill dry fly. First thing we're going to do is just get our thread started, and we're going to take it about halfway or so down the hook. Next thing to do is to tie in your tail, which I'm just going to use some brown hackle or some dark barred ginger hackle. I'm just going to brush the fibers backwards, that way it'll splay them out and it will even up the tips for me. And I can pluck out those hackle tips. These will be my tail, and I want my tail to be about the length of the shank of the hook, maybe just a slight bit less, a little shorter. And we're going to tie that in right on top of the shank of the hook. We're going to take it all the way back to the bend. Then we're going to take our thread forward. We're going to do this as evenly and as smooth as possible so I don't get any gaps in my thread. Next thing to do is to tie in the wings, and for the wings I'm going to use some Mallard flank that's dyed Woodduck color. You can also use Woodduck if you have it. So I'm going to get one of those feathers out, and I'm going to take a generous clump of about 40 or 50 fibers. This will be one of my wings here. So I just try to get it so the tips are fairly even. So I trimmed out a nice big chunk there. And you can tie these wings in all at once, or you can tie them in one at a time. I want that wing to be about the length of the shank of the hook. I just tie it in. I'm going to build a thread dam right in front of it here. Then I'm going to just take my thread and wrap around that post a couple of times. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Most people would probably tie these in at once. With some of these more delicate wings, I like to tie them in one at a time, but like I said, most people would probably tie them in at once. And I just do the same process of doing a thread dam right in front of it. I'm going to just go around that a couple of times. We'll draw it all together. There we go. When you have those wings finished, you can see they're nice and splayed. Now we're going to tie in the body, which is going to be just the quill of a dark barred ginger or a brown hackle feather. I've just stripped off all the fibers. And we're going to tie this in right behind the bump where we tied in our wings. And we're very smoothly going to wrap this all the way back to the tail. We're going to take our thread forward smoothly. I'm going to stop just right behind those wings, and now we're going to wrap this quill forward, trying to get every wrap right next to each other. Oop. So what happened there was I just nicked the point with that quill and it snapped it right off, so I'll just unwind my thread here and we'll do the same thing. You got to be very careful not to nick your hook. It will break these quills, they're very delicate. Some people do like to soak these in warm water, that'll make them more supple. I've skipped that just for the demonstration here. Try that again. Try not to hit my hook this time. And once I get to that hump, I'm just going to stop and capture the quill. Trim it out of there. Now the next thing to do is to hackle the fly. I'm just going to get a dark bar ginger whiting hackle feather here. Measure it out so those barbs stick just beyond the point of the hook. I'm going to tie this in. Trim out the excess of the stem. I'm going to just make a nice smooth base here to wrap it on. Just make sure there's no bumps or humps. I'm going to take my thread all the way to the eye of the hook. Now we can just hackle our fly. Just wrap the hackle, one wrap right in front of the other. Once I get to those wings, I'm going to jump in front of them. Kind of peel them back here to get that first wrap right in front of them. And once I get to the eye, I can capture the hackle. And I can trim out the excess, trying to get in there as close as you can. I use a very fine tipped Dr. Slick micro tip scissor to get in there as close and as tight as I can. These have kind of hypodermic needle ends that really allow me to get close with them. Then you can whip finish. And this fly is a fairly delicate fly, so what I like to do is either glue or cement the body. Usually what I do is I just take a little bit of my Zap-A-Gap brush on glue here. I just hit the back of the quill here. That'll help keep it from falling apart. And you can see there's a few black spaces in there where my thread's showing through. That's okay. I mean, you're never going to get it absolutely perfect. That will actually imitate the kind of mottled nature of the actual mayfly. Don't be worried if you see a few gaps in there. It's very hard to get exactly perfect without breaking your quill or nicking your hook point. Just try to get them as close as you can. And like I said, that imitates kind of the mottled body of the natural mayfly. And that's all there is to the red quill. You can buy the materials for this fly at intheriffle.com, along with the whiting dry fly feathers that we use for this fly as well.